The mistake I made after every winning trade was thinking I was untouchable. That's the part I didn't want to admit for a long time, because winning feels good. It feels like proof. It feels like maybe you're finally getting it. But for me, a win was often the beginning of the next problem, not the end of it. I'd win a trade, feel sharp, and then make a decision I had no business making. And that mistake after the win cost me more than the win itself ever earned. Chapter 1. A win made me loose. This is where it started. After a good trade, I'd relax too much. I'd feel like the hardest part of the day was already done, like I had momentum, like the market was finally making sense. And once I got that feeling, my standards started to slip. I'd take setups I normally wouldn't take. I'd size a little bigger. I'd stay a little longer on the screen. I'd tell myself I was just pressing my edge. That's how the slide began. Not with a bad trade, with a good one. That's what makes this mistake so sneaky, because nobody warns you that winning can make you worse, but it can. Chapter 2. The euphoria after a win. The real issue wasn't the trade. It was the feeling after the trade. That little hit of confidence, that rush of, I knew it, that sense that maybe the market was finally with me. That feeling is dangerous because it changes how you interpret the next opportunity. Suddenly, the next setup looks cleaner than it is. The next move feels easier than it is. The next click feels more justified than it should. I'd start believing the day had a special rhythm, that I was in sync, that I could feel the market better than I really could. But most of the time, I wasn't seeing clearly. I was just high on the last win, and winning made me more willing to ignore details I should have been paying attention to. That's when the bad decisions started to stack. Story moment. I remember one day where I had a really clean win early. Nothing huge, just a solid trade that worked the way I wanted. I should have been calm after that. Instead, I got greedy. I started scanning for the next setup like I was owed another one. The first trade gave me confidence, and I treated that confidence like permission. So I took another trade, then another, and by the end of the session, I had given back a big chunk of what I made. Not because the first trade was bad, because I let the win change my behavior. That was the lesson. The win wasn't the danger. What I did after it was. Chapter 3. Why winning makes traders careless after a win. A lot of traders think they're being aggressive, but sometimes they're just being careless. There's a difference. Aggression can be useful when it's controlled. Carelessness is when you stop asking the important questions. Is this setup actually valid? Is the risk worth it? Am I taking this because it's there or because I feel good? Those are the questions I wasn't asking enough, because I was letting the win do the thinking for me. That's a bad move. A win can make you feel like you're seeing things better than you are. It can make you believe you're in a zone that needs to be protected. It can make you think one more trade won't matter, but one more trade always matters. That's how give back happens. That's how a good day becomes a weak one. That's how a small emotional mistake turns into a bigger one. Pattern interrupt. Let me say this clearly. Winning does not make you safer. It can make you sloppier. That's the part most traders miss. Chapter 4. The real problem was the story I told myself. The mistake after the win was never just the trade. It was the story I told myself. I'd say, I'm in sync. I can press now. This setup is close enough. I'm seeing the market well. I can make a little more before I stop. That story felt reasonable, but reasonable isn't always right. The story gave me permission to skip my usual process. And once I skipped it once, it got easier to do it again. That's the danger, because after a win, it's easy to believe you've earned the right to be a little looser. But trading doesn't work like that. The market doesn't reward your mood. It rewards your process. Chapter 5. The emotional cost was bigger than the money. Yes, I gave back money after winning. That hurt. But the bigger cost was what it did to my confidence. Because every time I gave back profits after a win, I felt less trust in myself. I started wondering, why do I keep doing this? Why can't I just stop when I'm ahead? Why do I keep sabotaging good days? That's a nasty feeling, because now the problem isn't just a trade. It's a pattern. And once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. The trade after the win didn't just affect the session. It affected the way I thought about my own discipline. That's when it stopped being about market conditions and started being about behavior. Chapter 6. What I had to change. I had to stop treating a win like a reward. That was the shift. A win is not a reason to loosen up. It's not a reason to increase size emotionally. It's not a reason to chase the next move. It's just a result. That's it. So I started building rules for after a win. If I hit a target, I stop. If I take a good trade, I don't immediately force another. If I feel overly confident, I slow down. That helped a lot, because now the win no longer controlled what happened next. I did, and that's how it should be. I also learned to ask myself one important question after a good trade. Am I still trading my plan, Or am I just trying to extend the feeling? That question saved me more than once, because extending the feeling is exactly how traders lose control after a win. Chapter 7. The lesson I paid for. Here's the lesson I paid for. A winning trade doesn't mean the day is safe. It doesn't mean your edge is stronger than it is. And it definitely doesn't mean you can afford to get sloppy. If anything, winning is when discipline matters more, because that's when traders are most likely to relax. That's when the ego gets louder. That's when the next mistake gets invited in. I had to learn that the hard way. And once I did, my trading got much cleaner. Not because I stopped winning, because I stopped treating winning like permission. That made all the difference. The mistake I made after every winning trade was letting the win change my behavior. I got loose. I got greedy. I got careless. And every time I did, it cost me. If you're the kind of trader who feels a little too confident after a good trade, be careful. That feeling is often where the next mistake starts. Protect the win, respect the process, and don't let one good trade talk you into a bad one. If this hit home, what usually happens to you after a win? Do you lock it in or keep going?